quick set. Started using this. This is the men's health sticker. Leave the stick on there, it's a nice little sticker. It's bloody sticky there. It's in the name. Yes, I started using this. It's like a low power lat. Try to do some shoulder handstand push-ups. Try us. Yeah, socks off.
It takes an amazing amount of software and hardware working together to make a network function. The challenge to all this is that if you have different pieces of software and hardware, they all have to be able to talk to each other and interact and able to make a network go. You might have a network recon, and you might be running
not quite.
an operating system, and all of these devices have to work together. To help make interconnectivity work, we came up with something a long time ago called the OSI 7-layer model. The OSI 7-layer model is 7 distinct layers. Now the OSI is the explainer of something called the TCP model. So let's do a quick overview and take a look at OSI and TCP. Now for OSI, basically there's no real bottom or top, but I tend to look at it at the bottom, the most basic part, which is what we call the physical layer. That's not the easiest part of the OSI 7-layer model. It's just what type of cables do I use and things like that. Now coming up from that is the data link layer.
Not quite, but
basically anything that works with a magnet works at the data link layer.
just take time to understand to do this.
Cards and cells, start talking about switches, things like that. The third layer is the network layer. Now the network layer is important because the network layer has to do with logical addresses. So when you see the network layer, you're talking about IP addresses. So things like routers in particular work at layer 3. The next layer up is the transport layer. The transport layer is kind of interesting. Data is big, and the actual chunks of data that go to a network are relatively small. So there has to be a assembly-disassembly area for data to be broken down into individual packets, and that's what the transport layer is all about. The transport layer not only disassembles packets, but makes packets to the other system.
I feel like my shoulders are tanked.
Now the second kind of interesting.
We've got no energy in them.
About the actual connection between two systems. Are we making a TCP connection between a web server and a web client? Are we just sending email? Are we sharing a form between two
Let's try to do like a half arm push up.
In terms of how that connectivity really works. Next is the presentation layer. The presentation layer is old and weird, but it is on the OSI. Just because a big chunk of data comes into your computer, does that necessarily mean that it is a form in your computer? Now, Microsoft Office, for example. If I open up my Microsoft Office, I can open up almost any kind of document you can dream of, and Office has the smarts built into it to automatically read it. That wasn't always the case. So the presentation layer used to be used to convert data into a format that your applications can read. Then here at the top is applications. Applications is important because the applications themselves, it's not really the applications you have to be careful here. What we're talking about is the smarts in the applications that make the network aware. Little simple things that you and I never think of. For example, if we were to open up Microsoft Word and we could literally go to the network to go find a particular file, that's because Microsoft Office itself is network aware. We often use the term API, or Application Programmer's Interface, as the definition of the smarts that are built into an application that allow us to make the application network aware. So this is the OSI. All right. The TCP/IP model is more simplistic than the OSI simply because if you're using only TCP/IP, there's a lot of parts that don't really come into play as much. Let me show you what I'm talking about. First of all, we have what they call the network interface layer. So the network interface layer covers all the physical cabling, MAC addresses, network cards, pretty much everything in terms of hardware, with a couple exceptions, routers, are all covered here under network interface. So that ties similarly to the data link physical to the OSI. Now your next one is your internet. The internet needs for IP address. So things like routers,
again.
IP address works at the internet layer. The next one is transport. Now, transport does all the assembly of this system, but it also has to do with whatever it takes to connect to the other system before that gets there. So in this case, we're talking about things like TCP and UDP, whatever it takes to get Now, the last one is called application. So application actually takes into consideration the overall application, presentation, and session layer. So everything that has to do with the application itself works at this layer. And keep in mind that the TCP/IP model looks at this a little bit differently than OSI. TCP model looks at applications as applications. For example, email, or FTP, or Telnet. All of these very distinct things that each have their unique port numbers all play into this one particular area. So if it were up to me, and it's not, but to me, I would change this a little bit. First of all, I would go ahead and take the transport layer and put the old OSI 7 layer into that as well as the transport layer, but that's really not the way we look at it for the exam, so we put that back. And that's pretty much your TCP/IP model. Now, what I want to do, let's take a look at both of these guys.
So again,
older, more detailed, and then we have the TCP/IP model, which is more modern, not as much detail, but not as complicated. Make sure for the Network Plus exam that you know both of these models. We've got lots of episodes that are going to break down all the different layers of these models in a lot more detail. But for right now, the important thing you need to appreciate is that each one of these layers has a distinct function. Each one of these layers has a name, but not only that, it's also got a number. So let's use OSI as an example. If I'm talking about OSI, I'm dealing with the network layer. Now, understand the network layer, there's also numbers to it. They go from 1 to 7. So if I'm talking about OSI and I say layer 3, you need to know that I'm talking about the network level. That's also what we do with TCP/IP. So when we're talking about the TCP/IP model, associated with it, make sure the network plus, you know, each name of each layer.
And I'll try to finish off with a little leg workout. And that'll be as simple as, it's like a half shrimp squat.
One of my favorite quotes that he makes is, talking about art is like dancing about architecture. And for those who are into the art scene, it makes total sense, because sometimes you just have to appreciate the art by enjoying it and encountering it. And to me, that really is the OSI and TCP models as well. The challenge with these models is only to draw 3D boxes up and discuss each level's function, but if you actually watch it happen, it doesn't really make sense for you. So that's what this episode is all about. I'm actually going to put you on different hats, and I'm going through interpretive dance, going to show you all of the different layers of the OSI and TCP models, and we're going to be doing this working with an Ethernet frame. Now, in this scenario, what's going to be happening is I'm going to start off as a client system, and I'm going to be just sending out a HTTP request to open up a web page. And then, on the return, I'll be acting like the web server who's actually bringing all this information back. And we're going to see how every step in these models works together to make all this happen. So, let's go ahead and start all this. I'll be right back with a hat. Hi, I'm the lowest layer of both the OSI and the TCP model. Now, there's a lot of different layer pieces involved here. So for right now, I'm a network farm. And I'm just sitting around, and I'm waiting for some data. Oh, here comes a frame now.
No.
So here is an Ethernet frame. Now, with this
Six
Ethernet
reps
frame,
there.
my job as a network card is really to, first of all, take a look at the incoming MAC address and verify that it's for me. In this case, it is. So I can take this data. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at the frame check sequence. I'm going to check the entire Ethernet frame, make sure it's in good shape. And assuming that it is, as a network card, I can go ahead and strip this off.
Think about
Now, if I'm a good
this for me,
all these days, I'll keep this information.
calisthenics, because the range of motion is so high,
And what the MAC address where this came from,
puts a lot of
frame back out. So what I have at this point is an IP packet. Now, my job
pressure on the knees.
So let's consider what we just done. If we're taking a look at the OSI model, we basically covered layer 1 and layer 2. So we've got the physical layer and the data layer. The physical layer is going to be the connection I've got to the outside.
Let's try shoulder handstand again.
Then layer 2 and the data link is what I need with the data layer. Now on the TCP model, they can call all of this stuff that I've just done the load layer. So the load layer that handles both of the OSIs. Oh, by the way, now we can call this load layer. We also call it the network interface.
Yeah.
So what I need to do now is pass this IP packet to the next layer. Thank you, lower layers. The OSI model, the network layer, or the TCP model, it would be called the internet layer. My job is real simple. I have to deal with IP addresses, and that's pretty much all that I do. When I'm going to do these IP addresses, my big first number one job is to make sure that this IP address is for me. And in this case it is, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pull this IP information off. And now that I've got this IP information, I'm going to get rid of this one because I know my IP address. But I'm going to keep the IP address just the local address that they got from. I'm going to keep this for myself, and I'm probably going to send an IP packet back in a little bit. So this is, I've got what type of packet. In this case, I'm left with what's known as a TCP send. This TCP send.
I'm done. Oh god. Done.